Hey everybody, it is TorontoUnicorn, and I decided to sit down and hang out with you in a more casual style video where I tell you one of the most important lessons I have ever learned in my life, especially on the quest for love. So it's no secret, I was single for a long time into my late 30s, and finally, a couple years ago, I met a great guy. We have a great relationship, and so I've really, turned that corner, so to speak. But I spent a lot of my time in my life wondering, where was my partner? Was I going to find a partner? Did I have a soulmate? Is there such a thing as a soulmate? Things like that. And so I had this one relationship when I was in my late teens, early 20s. I was in college. I fell in love with this guy. I'll just say his name, Brian. I fell in love with a guy named Brian, and I dated him for a few years. And he was like, at the time, he was everything I wanted in a guy, right? He was cute. We had good chemistry. He was, a gentleman. He was good to my family. Like he was very, fun to be around, whatever. So we were in love. We called each other soulmates. We thought maybe one day we'd get married, things like that. And it didn't work out that way, obviously. So we ended up breaking up. Now he's the one that broke up with me, and the details of why we broke up aren't that important. But basically, I was going through university at the time. I didn't cope very well with the stresses of life. I gotten a bit, depressed, and I was living with him, and it was just, it was stressful, and it basically, it didn't work out. So I then had to deal with the fact that I lost who I thought was my soulmate, right? And I remember when my friends at the time would talk to me about it and just like hear me out about, what happened. I remember saying the sentence a few times. And then in therapy, I learned, I think I was basically making an oath, right, to myself instead of just what I thought I was doing was being, colorful about how serious I was about believing he was my soulmate. But what I did say was, I would rather die alone and be right that he was my soulmate than to be wrong because of how sure I was of my feelings. So let me say that in a different way. I was so sure Brian was it for me that I would rather never find another man for the rest of my life and know I was right, because how could I ever be wrong if I felt so strongly, than be proven wrong. And let's be honest, I was single for like 20 fucking years after that. Ish. I had a couple boyfriends in that 20 years, but it was like I made this oath that if it's not Brian, it's no one. Now, that's pretty dramatic, I guess you could say. But I don't know what it is about my personality, but I have always had trouble getting over breakups. I have had an issue with letting go of people, and like almost like the mental Olympics of trying to adjust to a life without somebody when they were they were where you lived, they were your social network. Like I remember feeling like I lost my identity when Brian and I broke up. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know, who my friends were. Like, and it was just this rebuilding that happened. So my comeback from the breakup with Brian was not good. It took way too long to get over that guy. It took way too many therapists. Like I'm talking over 10 years of time to get over it. Okay. Um, it wasn't like I was like stalking him and this whole time and begging for him to take me back. I had accepted in a way that he has moved on and left me, but it was like I thought that he was the one that got away. Okay. So I was like committed to this idea that if I was so sure of my own feelings, then they couldn't possibly have been wrong. Now, the lesson that I have learned is fascinating because, first of all, I was given a test by the universe in a way that I had no choice but to accept that I could be wrong. And I'll give you a little bit of that side story because it matters. The guy I'm with now, the guy who I'm happy with, that I think is Mr. Prince Charming and like the best thing since sliced bread in terms of a boyfriend. So, him, when we first got together, there was some turbulence about getting together and staying together. Like we didn't get together and stay together. We had a few breakups, and it was just us, getting our sea legs in the relationship, so to speak, and then being able to have our happy life. So it wasn't super easy at the beginning. And there were times where I remember saying to myself, Sarah, because that's my real name, he's not the one. And I'm sure. Like, don't be confused. He can't be the one. If this, and I was like, I know it. He's not the one. So then, like, I don't know, a month or two later, things are on the upswing with him. And I'm getting back into the, believing that we could have a life together thing. And then I remember having this thought in my apartment, Sarah, he's the one, I'm sure. And then I remember thinking, well, wait a second. I've now said both he's the one and he's not the one, and said I was sure both times. And it was only with that realization that two things couldn't both be true at the same time that I must have been wrong. Which one is wrong? I don't know, but one of them is likely wrong. And that epiphany that my own heart could, for lack of a better word, deceive me, it was an awakening, because it made me realize that even if I feel really strongly, even if I believe something with all of my heart, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm feeling something strongly, but what if I'm wrong? And it really helped me, because whether it's a topic such as what you want to do with your life, your career, even political beliefs, or how you like to live your adult life, whether you choose to have family and children, or be child free, or be poly, like there's so many ways to live your life, and maybe it doesn't match what you originally believed to be the right thing. And so it's just humbling to realize that we can be wrong. And so here's the cherry on top of the story, okay? It was, I don't know, it was like fucking at least 10 years ago, but I went for dinner with Brian. So he's already, like, by the way, he's married with kids now. He's happy, right? And I don't really talk to him, but he's on my Facebook. But anyways, I went and had, I think it was over 10 years ago, but it was maybe, oh my God, the fucking years fucking passed so crazy. It's just, it's just so fast how they go. So it was sometime in the last 20 years, I went and had dinner with him in Ottawa. So I was in Kingston at the time. I lived there. I was working there, and he lived in Ottawa, and I had a business trip to go to Ottawa. So I was like, "Hey, let's call up Brian. We'll go for dinner." And so we knew it was platonic, because we've stayed in touch a little bit over the years. We knew we're just friends now, ish, right? And so, anyways, I go there. We sit down. It's nice to see you. Nice to see you. We sit down. And I remember having drinks. I remember having food. I remember the bill coming. And he's been talking the whole time. And then I remember the feeling of sitting there, the bill's paid, it's time to leave. And I said to him, "So I've been good." Because he hadn't even asked how I was doing. He asked no questions about what I'm doing in life. Am I happy? Where am I working? It was all the me, 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 me show. It was, what was Brian up to? What is Brian's hopes and dreams? What does Brian like about his new car? Like, and I just sat there across the table from the man that I swore up and down was my soulmate. And I remember at the end of that dinner knowing I would probably never see him again, because the experience of being with him didn't feel the same. He was still him, but I never realized before how egocentric he was, how it was a lot about him in the conversation. I guess it just didn't register the same. And so I remember vividly sitting there, at the end of that dinner thinking, I was wrong. It's not him. Then I move on my merry way. 20 years later, find another guy. He's fucking exactly like Brian in certain ways. And then in other ways, he's better. He's like Brian 2.0. And I can't believe what I thought was the one compared to this guy now, who I'm like, if there's not the one, then I don't know what the fuck this is. Cause like, it's just, it's working out, right? It's a really good match. And so I guess I want to just say to my 20-year-old self, it's okay to get something wrong. Your love choices, your career, even just how you live your life, it's okay to get it wrong. It's okay to even accept that you have been wrong, even with your best of intentions in life. And once you realize that you can let yourself off the hook, then you see your own humanity and your own willingness and ability to be able to pivot, change course. Because if I could go back to my younger self, the one that was desperately trying to get over a breakup and saying out loud, I would rather be right about him and be alone for the rest of my life than find out I was wrong. What would I say to that girl? I say, like, girl, you got some living to do. Because just because you felt so strongly, it doesn't mean I was wrong in the moment. It just, the life is bigger and grandeur than we have in the present moment. And so maybe what felt right at the time was just how I felt at the time. And maybe even, finding out that he wanted to get married and have kids. And I know that's the traditional social script, but that's not what I want. I don't want children. I never want children. And I'm really glad that I didn't end up with a guy that wanted that. So, with me, I mean, right? So he wasn't the one. And I became free from that oath I told because I decided it was okay to be wrong. And I feel some emotion in me as I'm giving this message, this video message, which by the way felt entirely channeled. I sat there, I had the realization, and I set up the camera and I was like, this is why I need to make videos, and when I need to make videos is when I'm feeling something. Because it comes across the video differently. I let myself be wrong, and then I found a wonderful guy who blows me out of the water. And I would love to call him the one and be right or wrong. But I have learned that I don't need to declare anything because there's no certainty I'll be right. So I might as well enjoy the present moment. I might as well call him the one for now, and make light of the fact that I don't know. We'll see. But I won't be held prisoner if it doesn't work out by my own mind. And I think that's the win here. By the way, I do have a podcast called Life Hack Your Breakup. I think some of the episodes are all on this channel as well, on YouTube if you're watching, because I have struggled with it. And so if you struggle with breakups, if you are in the middle of getting dumped and you're in that initial nervous system crisis phase where you don't know how to get from minute to minute, Life Hack Your Breakup with Toronto Unicorn. It's a 30 episode miniseries. It is meant to be little individual life hacks that you can deploy to make the impact on you less. You'll still suffer. Breakups suck. But when you can life hack your nervous system arousal, when you can life hack ways to mentally discard the connection with someone so that it doesn't keep haunting you at night, it just, life becomes a bit more manageable. So I'll put a link in the description. It's available on YouTube as well as on Spotify and other podcasts for listening. So check it out. But otherwise, thanks for watching. I hope you like this format. Normally I like to do the in and out, 4-minute videos, punchy, here's the message, here's the relevancy, blah, blah, blah. But this one felt like I want to spend time with you. I want to sit here and not preach to people. I want to show you something I wanted to share that I think will help enlighten people, change people for the better, and maybe just prevent people from making, some mistakes that I made. So if you like the format, let me know, please. All my links again are on my website, TorontoUnicorn.com. Until next time. Oh, please don't forget to subscribe and like this video if you haven't. I love seeing the subscribe numbers come up, especially the like numbers. And if you leave a comment, I mean, that's extra love. So I appreciate it.